Okay, now talk about going back in history. This car here was put together in 1976-77, and I built this car in a very short period of 10 months. It's a 1948 Anglia, and most people associate these cars with drag racing, but to me, I love the two-door 48 Anglias. And when I first moved to Castlemaine, Eddie Ford from Custom Rodder and I decided that we'd do a car and take shots of it and a story on how to put it together, because you've got to remember 1977-78, not that many people were building cars, and to most people it was a very big job to build a car from scratch. So we wanted to show that it was relatively easy. I found this car in Bendigo. It was an original car. We actually drove it home. We pulled it to bits and got the body acid dipped, which was something that wasn't done very often, so it was completely stripped down, and luckily we found absolutely zero rust in it. And I had a supercharged 350 that had been in another car that I had, so we decided that we were going to fit that. And we did quite a bit of work on this car, and Eddie photographed the story all along the way. We made up a couple of chassis rails that fitted inside the original chassis. So we actually mounted the motor, the gearbox and diff on a second chassis that was sitting inside the original. The original chassis was just left to do its job, which was actually to bolt the body to, bolt the mudguards, the inner fenders, the radiator. We left all that as original. Now we chose to use an MGB front end, because back then people used Tirana front ends, and I didn't particularly like the steering setup on a Tirana at the time, and they were too wide. But the MG front end was just the right width. In fact, it was a little bit narrow, so what we did, we got two front ends and we cut them, and we cut each one about 1 inch off centre. So we actually widened the front suspension by 2 inches, which made it absolutely perfect for the front chassis rails. I found a 1934 Ford Popular, which was the small version of the V8 car that Ford put out, and that's where I found these headlights and the bumper bar. The bumper bar is a beautiful shaped with a V in it, very, very hard to get, and people wondered where I got it from, but that's where it came from. We cut 3.5 inches out of the roof of this car and lowered the roof down. We fitted a GT Falcon sunroof, which you could buy at the time. Any wrecker you could buy a Falcon sunroof, but you wouldn't do it today. At the rear we chose to use a Jaguar independent rear end, and we got the wheels especially built. Back then it was very, very hard to get wheels done, and I had to get an American gentleman to spoke the rims for me. But as I've always said in my cars, the wheels and the stance of the car are very important, so the back wheels widened wise was unheard of back then. And probably what I'm most proud of is the fact that this car is responsible for a lot of people entering the sport or the hobby. A lot of people come up to me and say that they watched this back when it was happening, and to them it was the starting point of hot rodding, because they saw how things were done. They watched me build this car, they watched me register it, they watched me drive it to the first event, which was the second Street Rod Nationals in Narrandera. And yes, it's responsible for a lot of people, and some people jokingly say I'm responsible for the disease that they've got. But power-wise, we used a 350 with a supercharger on it. The gearbox is very unique. It's a clutch automatic. It's a turbo 400 fitted with a clutch on the front. So the car is quite quick over the quarter mile, and quite easy to drive. So yeah, we fitted with a tilt column. The steering column's out of a Camaro, got a tilt column. The inside window frames we actually cast in aluminium because they were Bakelite and they broke. Even the sun made them crack, the originals, so we just reproduced them in aluminium. and we painted it as the car called the Redback. As you can see, we have a black car with a red stripe, which most people think was fairly trick, and the front grille is fitted with the Anglia 10 badge, which is a bit of a waste of time, wasn't it? 10 horsepower. I think it's got a bit more than that. But anyway, I'm pretty proud of this car, and everybody likes it.